Hey everyone, this is Matt, and in today's video, I'm bringing you my Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel Floowandereeze deck profile. Alright, it's finally here. I got you some Birbs. Alright, I know I posted a couple replays of me playing as Floowandereeze. This is one of the three decks that I used to climb to Diamond 1 this season. So I used Eldlich, I used Subterran, and I used Floowandereeze. Alright, so people are going to say, wait, isn't that a meta deck, or like, isn't that a degenerate deck? Yeah, it kind of is. However, I really like the artwork. All right, like look at some of this artwork. Look how pretty this is. Look at this. Like it's so pretty. Look at this one. Like I don't know. I'm a sucker for pretty artwork. All right. Birds. I couldn't care less about, but yeah, pretty artwork. Always a fan of. All right. So uh, this is a Diamond 1 deck profile, so you can definitely succeed with this in Diamond 1. I'm building Floowandereeze a little differently than maybe some of the Floowandereeze that you may have seen, and you'll see why soon. But anyway, let's get into it. So the entire gimmick behind Floowandereeze is that their main engine monsters, like, so they don't really use the extra deck for anything, right? Their boss monsters are all monsters in the main deck, and their engine pieces are, like they're named little birds, are all monsters that have a gimmick where you normal summon them, you activate an effect that does something, and then after that effect resolves, and only if it resolves, then you get to normal summon again, right? And all these little birds, when they leave the field, instead of going to the graveyard, they go to the banish pile face up. And a cool thing about this is that every time you normal summon a bird, big or small, the little birds that are in the face up in the banish pile, they get to basically activate their banished effect that will allow you to return them to your hand. So you can actually use these to chain block, right? And it's pretty neat. So anyway, let's get into it. So let's start with probably the most important, or one of the most important combo starter birds of the deck, and that is Floowandereeze and Robina. So this card is a one-card starter, as in if you have this one card in your hand and you don't get hand trapped, you should theoretically be able to make your full board, right? So Robina reads, if this card is normal summon, you can add a level 4 or lower wing beast from your deck to hand. Then immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon a wing beast monster. So basically, a Robina will search your little birds, okay? And you need that because eventually you want at least one copy of all the little Birbs in rotation. Plus, this allows you to search your Bearer Statue of the Stormwinds, okay? So this is a water bird, level 1. Keep that in mind. All right. Next, and I would even argue that this next little bird is probably the most important, even more important than Robina, if you really think about it. How so? Well, because if you get hand trapped on Eglin, you're kind of screwed, right? So let's read what this says. So this one said, if this card is normal summon, you can add a 1 level 7 or higher wing beast monster from your deck to your hand, and immediately after this effect resolves, you can normal summon 1 wing beast monster. So Eglin is the little bird name that you use to search out your big birds, right? So your big birds are your biggest threats of the deck. You can't win unless you get your big birds out, right? So if you're playing against Floowandereeze and you're like, all right, how do I deal with these annoying birds? You stop Eglin, right? Find a way to negate Eglin's effect, and if you can, then hopefully you can stop them from popping off. But yeah, Eglin is the most important effect to negate. Don't bother trying to negate Robina because it's not as important as negating Eglin. Okay. Note that that Eglin is a wind bird. Okay. Alright, so we're running 3 copies of Robina and 3 copies of Eglin. So typically, whenever you're deciding how to chain block, right, try to chain block the Eglin. Of course, Imperm Valor can always hit it, but if you chain block it correctly, you can stop Ash, you can stop like Burrow Negate, you can stop a lot of things if you chain block properly. And if you watch a couple of the replays I posted of me playing Floowandereeze, you'll see how useful chain blocking can be in just basically getting basically stopping my opponent from being able to do anything. All right. So the other 2 little birds that we're playing 1 copy of each, 1 copy of Floowandereeze and Street. So some deck profiles like to play 2 of these. I think that's kind of overkill. I think 1 is enough. once you search it and have it in rotation, you can theoretically use its effect every turn, including on your opponent's turn. So this card reads, if this card is normal summon, you can target one card in either graveyard, banish it. Then immediately after this effect resolves, you can normal summon one winged beast monster. So basically, so this is a level 1 water bird. So basically, this allows you to banish stuff from the graveyard, either your own or your opponent's. Most of the time, you want to do your opponent's graveyard, but sometimes you do want to banish things in your graveyard, which I'll get into later. Real quick thing about Floowandereeze, about Stree is the banish must occur under this effect for you to get your additional normal summon. So one thing I see a lot of Floowandereeze players do, which is incorrect, and is if, let's say I'm playing Eldlich against them, they summon Floowandereeze Stree and they target my Elixir in the graveyard, okay? Because they want to, let's say they want to banish my Elixir. So if they attempt to do that, I can chain Elixir, banish itself for cost, and then search a golden land trap. Or let's say they target my Eldlich in the graveyard to banish. If I chain Elixir to summon Eldlich from the graveyard onto the field, then that means that they will not get to banish that target under their effect. They'll lose the target, the effect will fizzle, which means they will not get an additional normal summon. Very important that you do not target the wrong things in the graveyard. Speaking of targeting things in the graveyard, cards you definitely want to target on your opponent's graveyard include, but are not limited to, DPE. That's probably the biggest one that your biggest case study of using Stree is banish DPE. If DPE is already dealt with, or you don't care, you can banish Celestial. You don't want to give them a free draw too. If they have a Water Enchantress of the Temple, you can banish in the graveyard. You can banish that, right? There's a lot of good banish targets. They have, you're against a Sword Soul player. They have Vishuda. Take out the Vishuda, right? You don't want to deal with Vishuda. So take out any problematic cards in their graveyard. Yeah, and you're gonna have a good time. And basically, because you're allowed to normal summon your birds on either player, basically on both players' turn, you basically get a free banish every turn, thanks to Stree. So yeah, make use of that. It can be very powerful and a big thorn in the side of your opponent. Right. So anyway, the final little bird is Floowandereeze and Tokan. All right. So this one, it's a level 1 wind bird. This one reads, where is it? If this card is normal summon, you can target one of your banished Floowandereeze cards and add it to your hand. Then immediately after this effect resolves, you can normal summon one winged beast monster. This is another card I see a lot of Floowandereeze players incorrectly play with. So just FYI. So let's say you have a banished Robina and then you normal summon Tokan, right? On summon, Tokan can target the Robina in your banish pile to return it to your hand and allow you to normal summon again. However, you'll get a pop-up on Master Duel that asks you, hey, because on summon, you'll have multiple trigger effects, right? It'll ask you, do you want to activate Robina's effect in the banish pile? And you want to answer no, okay? So the reason you want to answer no is because if Robina activates its effect in the banish pile to return itself to its hand, then that means Tokan will no longer have a target in the banish pile to return to the hand, so the effect will fizzle and you will not get another normal summon. I've seen way too many Floowandereeze players make this mistake. Please do not make this mistake. Because it's super cringe when I see it. Another thing about Tokan, which a lot of people often don't realize, is there's a lot of Floowandereeze cards that are not monsters, which I'm gonna get to soon, that you're gonna want to use Tokan to return. So I would say most of the time, if you can, use Tokan to return one of your Floowandereeze spells or traps, which I'm gonna get into. Most of the time. Sometimes you will be using Tokan to return your M-Pen. From the banish pile into your hand, and I'll get into that. Alright, so those are the little Birbs. So you have 3, 3, 1, 1, so 10 total little Birbs. I'm going to skip hand traps for now. I'm going to leave that, I'm going to talk about that spice later. Let's skip to the big bird. Actually, no, one more little Birb. Alright, Barrier Statue of Stormwinds. This card reads, neither player can special summon monsters except wind monsters. This is a good card. It's a wind wing beast monster that is level 4 or lower. Therefore, it can be searched via Robina. So a lot of times what you want to do is if you open Robina and do not open Eglin, you want to search Eglin. If you open both Robina and Eglin, or you have access to both, right? Let's say via the map or whatever, then you want to use Robina to search the barrier statue. Basically, the barrier statue will be the last thing you summon on your turn after your M-Pen. So yeah, this card is a thorn on the side of a lot of players. A lot of players like lose their minds over this card, and it can make them instantly scoop, right? One caveat is that if the opponent is running the adventure package, and they happen to have the access to the Griffin Rider in their opening hand, then they can just summon the special summon the Griffin Rider and try to beat over this. Of course, they can also try to normal summon like a regular monster and beat over this, but there are ways to protect this, which I'll get into later in this video. Alright, so that's your last little bird. Big Birbs. Alright, so the big Birbs we're running is 2 copies of Floowandereeze and M-Pen. Alright, by the way, I just want to say a quick caveat. So the very first time that this set came out, where Floowandereeze was released, I immediately spent 1,000 gems to buy 10 packs, right? And I kid you not, I literally pulled 4 total copies of M-Pen. 1 at this super shiny, like, highest rarity, 1 at this, you know, medium rarity, and then 2 at, like, the regular, you know, just the regular one. I kid you not, like, first purchase of 10 packs, I pull, like, all this, right? It was pretty insane. I'm like, alright, clearly, Master Duel is telling me that I'm destined to be playing Floowandereeze here. If they give me this card, like, come on, I gotta do it, right? Alright, so we're running 2 copies of M-Pen. Alright, so why 2 copies? Alright, so let's talk about what this card does. This card has, a couple effects. First is, if this card is tribute summon, you can add a Floowandereeze spell trap from your deck to your hand. Then immediately after this effect resolves, you can normal summon a monster. So the way you typically want to play your combo is Robina search Eglin, Eglin search M-Pen, and then you'll have Robina and M-Pen and Eglin on the field, tribute both of them to summon M-Pen. And then you can use M-Pen to search your trap, and then you can then normal summon again, and ideally, if you have the barrier statue, you would search the barrier statue, right? Alright, so that's the first effect. Second effect, this monster is a floodgate. It says, while this tribute summon card is in the monsters, your opponent cannot activate the effect of special summon monsters they control in attack position. That means that all of your opponent's link monsters cannot use their effects, period. They can't even activate them. They can't even attempt to activate them as long as M-Pen is on the field. And this will also mean that any other non-link monsters, right, because link monsters cannot be in defense position, any other link monsters your opponent summons will be summoned in defense position, which means they won't be able to attack over M-Pen. So yeah, it's really hard for opponents to out this. I mean, I guess they can just hard play Imperm like as their first card, I suppose. But yeah, there aren't that many counters to it. But yeah, this ability is nuts. It's really good. Alright, so what else? Third effect. Once per battle during damage calculation, so per battle, right? If this card battles an opponent's monster, quick effect. You banish a card from your hand, that opponent's monster's current attack defense is halved until the end of this turn. So that means, basically, this M-Pen can beat over any monster under 5400 attack. That includes access code, which, I mean, if you have M-Pen, their access code is never going to reach 5200 attack to begin with, so it doesn't matter. But, yeah. Really good. Basically, it makes it so that it's really difficult to you know, kill M-Pen in battle, unless like you have no cards in your hand to banish. So, by the way, folks, none of these effects that I just listed is once per turn. Do you see any text anywhere that says you can only activate M-Pen once per turn? No, there isn't, which means all these effects are not once per turn. The cutting your opponent's monster's attack defense in half is not once per turn. So if they have 5 monsters attacking you, if you can banish 5 cards, you can literally have their attacks, right, 5 times. It also means that, let's say you summon 2 M-Pens in one turn, you can search 2 Floowandereeze spell traps. So, yeah, really, really powerful. One thing to notice, however, that an effect that M-Pen does not have is when M-Pen gets destroyed or leaves the field, it does not go to the banish pile. It goes into the graveyard, which means it's kind of annoying for you to bring it back, right? Basically, let's say your M-Pen gets outed, right? It's in the graveyard. The way you bring M-Pen back is you summon Floowandereeze Tree, use Tree to banish your own M-Pen, and then use summon Floowandereeze Token, use Token to bring M-Pen back into your hand, and then you can summon M-Pen again. So that's how you normally deal with it. Alright, so I run 2 copies of M-Pen. Why 2 copies of M-Pen if it's searchable? Because sometimes you just want to hard open it in your hand, okay? Sometimes you just want to have it, right? Let's say your Eagling gets negated. It's nice to just have the M-Pen already in your hand sometimes, right? Like, at 2 copies, you're very unlikely to see both copies in your hand, in your opening hand. You have a solid chance to see one of them, right? like about 20-25%. See one M pen in your opening hand. So Eagling gets negated, you still have the M pen. Also, let's say your M pen does get outed, you can basically bring out your second one without relying on having Stree and Tokan, right? So let's say you don't yet have Stree and Tokan, you can still access your second M pen via just Eaglin, Robina Eaglin, right? So yeah, I think 2 is a great ratio. Like a lot of players like to run 1. I think that's a mistake. I think 2 is absolutely the right way to go. And I think a lot of like the more modern Floowandereeze players definitely agree with this. All right, so that's your main big bird. You have 2 more big birds that are important. So let's talk about Mist Valley Apex Avian. So this is a big bird that's, you know, Wind Wing Beast, level 7, so it requires 2 tributes. This monster says its effect is once per chain when a card or effect is activated. Quick effect. Target 1 Mist Valley card control, return that target to hand, and if you do, negate the activation. If you do that, destroy it. So you have an Omni Negate that is not once per turn. Do you see any text that says you can only use this effect once per turn? No, because you can use it multiple times in one turn. So yeah, if you're able to summon Apex Avian, negate one of their cards, and then summon it again on the same turn, you can negate a second time, folks. Like it's pretty nuts. The only unfortunate part is like there's no way to, if this card gets outed, like destroyed or whatever and sent to the graveyard, there's like no way to recycle this back to your hand. It's basically gone forever. Yeah, so really good card. And then of course the Spice, probably the slightly more important bird, is Rise of the Mega Monarch. So this is a level 8 Wind Wing Beast. So this is also a big bird, right? Even though it doesn't might not look like one. So this says, contribute to summon this card by attributing 1 tribute summon monster. You pretty much never want to do that. If this card is tribute summoned, target 1 card on the field, 1 card in either graveyard. Also, if this card was tribute summoned by tributing a wind monster, you can target an additional card on the field. So place the first targets on top of the deck in any order. Also after that, return any additional targets to the hand. So basically, you always want to tribute summon this if you can with a one of your wind monsters, right? So either Eaglin or Tokan, right? And when you do, and in fact this card is really good for going second to break boards, but also pretty good going first, because you can summon it on your opponent's turn. So basically, you summon it. You target one card on either field, 1 card in either graveyard, and then a third card on either field. The first 2 cards you target are cards that will return to the deck, right? So one thing you can do is, it's called the Ryza loop. You can literally target 1 card on your opponent's field. So let's say a problematic card, maybe like from the extra deck, and then 1 card in your opponent's graveyard. The card that you want to put on top of your opponent's deck is a card that when they draw it on their turn will not do anything for them. So you want to basically brick their hand, right? By putting whatever you put on top of their deck, make it be the most useless card you can, right? And then you can target a card on the hand to bounce it as well, or on the field to bounce it to the hand, right? So you can theoretically bounce the second extra deck monster, or you can use Ryza to target itself and bounce itself back to the hand, right? So if you bounce Ryza back to the hand, you can just summon it again on the next turn and bounce more cards, right? So you can basically just bounce forever thanks to Ryza. One cool thing about Ryza is it synergizes really well with Dimension Shifter. So yeah, we are running 3, so I guess we can start getting into hand traps. So the bread and butter best hand trap in this deck is Dimension Shifter. This card is amazing. If you have no cards in your graveyard, send this card from hand to graveyard until the end of the next turn. So, so basically this lasts for 2 turns. Any card sent to the graveyard is banished instead. So most decks in the format require their graveyard in order to function. They need the access to the graveyard, and if they're under D Shifter, they can't really use anything from the graveyard, and all their cards, their cards get banished essentially. So typically, you run 3 copies of this, you want to see this as often as possible. You might say, wait, but you can only activate this card if your graveyard is empty, right? So once you use the first D Shifter, and it goes to the graveyard, that means all your future D Shifters are dead, right? Not exactly. So there's 2 ways you can get you can literally banish your 1 D Shifter from your graveyard and use this another copy. One, you could use Floowandereeze Stree. So when you use Stree, you can literally use banish your own D Shifter, and then that'll open up your graveyard so that you can use a second D Shifter if you'd like, right? Another way is via Rise of the Mega Monarch. So recall that when it's summoned, you can basically target a card in either graveyard. So what you can do is you can target your own D-Shifter. It'll bounce it back to the top of your deck, so you'll literally draw it next turn, right? And once you draw it, you can immediately play it again. So, yeah, you can just have an infinite loop of D-Shifter, right? So, summon Ryza, bounce one of their important cards, or a brick, right, from their field to the top of their deck, bounce D-Shifter back on top of your deck, and then bounce Ryza back into your hand. And then next turn, they're on the D-Shifter again. You have access to Ryza again. You can bounce more cards. So, yeah, you can infinitely loop D-Shifter. And Ryza, like it's really powerful. Some Floowandereeze players like to play 2 Ryzas. It just seems silly because like you can already like recycle yourself. Like what's the point of 2 Ryzas? I don't know. It just seems unnecessary to run 2 Ryzas. If you need to run 2 Ryzas, you're not playing this deck correctly. So learn to play, get good, and learn to play this deck correctly. Anyway. Okay. So I think I've covered. So those are so I covered all the birds. Oh, one more thing about each of the M-Pen and Rise of the Mega Monarch. Because you tribute summon, you send 2 of your little birds from the field to the banish pile to tribute summon for both M-Pen and Ryza. You can immediately chain block either Ryza or M-Pens on summon effect using one of the little birds you just banished, right? So basically, this Ryza effect cannot be negated by Barone or like 9 Pillars of the Yang Zing. It just can't. Like it's there's a lot of really good chain blocking that goes on in this deck. So all right, more hand traps. 3 Maxis. I think that goes without saying. Maxi is really busted. Yeah, your opponent, most decks in the format special summon a lot. So if you can Maxi them, you either force them to, if they don't have an out for it, you either force them to let you draw a bunch of cards or end their turn, right? And the funny thing is, like, so technically Maxi and D-Shifter are mutually exclusive, right? So, Maxi says send this card from your hand to the graveyard, right? So if D-Shifter is active, you cannot activate Maxi. However, you kind of don't need to, right? If you D-Shifter, they can't really play or summon much anyway. Like, they're kind of screwed and their turn is over, right? And so it's the same with Maxi. So you only really need to resolve one of these, right? My opinion, you should resolve D-Shifter first. You should prioritize D-Shifter. Here's the thing. If they, let's say they have Call by the Grave, like let's say you use D-Shifter and they Call by the Grave your D-Shifter, you can immediately chain Max, and like if they Call by the Grave your D-Shifter, your Maxi will be live. So if you open D-Shifter and Maxi, and they have an out for like a Call by the Grave for your D-Shifter, like Maxi will just go through unless they have like a cross out or an Ash or something. So yeah, it's pretty funny. Like, yeah, they're mutually exclusive, but like typically they don't need like you're not gonna play them together anyway, right? So anyway, yeah, so those are 6 hand traps. I have 3 more hand traps. That's right, I have 9 hand traps, and we are running. That's right. Check out the spice: Ghost, Reaper, and Winter Cherries, baby. That's right. Let's go. So let's read what this card says. This card says if your opponent controls more monsters than you, so most of the time this will happen when you are going second, right? But it could happen if you're going first, because honestly, the Floowandereeze board doesn't end on that many monsters. It ends on 1 monster or 2 monsters. So this can also trigger if you're going first as well. You can discard this card. So notice as discard, it does not say send to the graveyard, which means if D-Shifter is active, you can still use this, right? Reveal 1 card in your extra deck. Then look at your opponent's extra deck and banish all cards in their extra deck with the same name as the revealed card. So basically... So remember how I said that Floowandereeze doesn't really use the extra deck? Well, I decided, you know what? Since I'm not gonna use the extra deck, I'm just gonna use my extra deck for like Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries fodder. Kind of troll, I know, but like, in my opinion, this is more higher impact than an Ash Blossom, higher impact than an Imperm, right? Some people like to run main deck Dark Ruler No More. So Dark Ruler No More is a card that some Floowandereeze players like to main deck, even though it's pretty much only good going second. I have thought about doing that. However, in Master Duel, Denglong is legal, right? Which means there's a lot of decks that can search out 9 Pillars of the Yang Zing. And even though Dark Ruler No More says that your opponent cannot activate monster effects in response to its activation, they can activate traps, which means if you play Dark Ruler No More and they have 9 Pillars of the Yang Zing, your Dark Ruler No More is getting negated, right? So, yeah, unfortunately, that's just the way of things. So, even though I do like Dark Ruler no more in Floowandereeze as a main deck option, I do think that because of the fact that a lot of boards set up a way to out Dark Ruler no more, I think I'd rather run Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries. So the entire point of Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries is you take out one important card from your opponent's extra deck, like literally like banish it, all copies of it, right? And then hopefully that card that you banish will prevent them from reaching their end board to begin with, hopefully. Or if it's their boss monster, it'll make their end board like weak as hell. So I'm gonna get into the Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries targets, but trust me, you will have a lot of fun with this card. This card is super fun. Okay, you should absolutely consider running this. But it's a UR, and a lot of monsters I have in the extra deck are UR, so if you don't want to afford that, feel free to swap the 3 Ghost Reapers for another hand trap. If you want to know which hand trap, I recommend Droll and Lockbird. The reason being, Droll and Lockbird is really good against the Adventure Engine. Basically, like, if they use Enchantress to search the Rite of Aramesia, and then you Droll them, their turn is basically over. They can't search any more pieces of their Adventure Engine. They can't search like 9 Pillars of the Yang. They can't search like a lot of stuff. So yeah. So if you don't want to like pay whatever to make Ghost Reaper, Winter Cherries, or any of the extra deck monsters, then feel free to do Droll and Lockbird. In my opinion, Droll and Lockbird is the most worth it hand trap. Right. So now imagine that scenario. You have 3 Droll and Lockbird, 3 Deep Shifter, 3 Maxi. It's like you have 9 insanely powerful hand traps that are floodgates. Right. Droll is a floodgate. Deep Shifter is a floodgate. Maxi is a floodgate. You can shut. It's very easy at that point to shut down like any opponent's plays they try to make. Right. Now I run Ghost Reaper Winter Cherries because this is a pseudo floodgate. And yeah. It's just like, I don't know, it's just so funny because it can just completely just decimate someone's entire turn, right? But again, feel free to swap these for Drolls. I'm not, I just think these are fun and hilarious, right? Maybe you'll think differently. All right, those are all the monsters. We're done with the monster lineup. All right, let's go into spells. So let's talk about the Floowandereeze spells first. So we have here the Floowandereeze field spell, 3 of. Floowandereeze and the Magnificent Map. So this is a mandatory 3 of. This card reads, during your main phase, you can reveal 1 Floowandereeze monster in your hand and banish 1 Floowandereeze card with a different name from the deck. And immediately after this effect resolve, normal summon the reveal monster. That's effect number 1. The second effect is, if your opponent normal summons a monster, immediately after this effect resolves, you can normal summon 1 Floowandereeze monster. Alright, so basically, in the standard rules of Yu-Gi-Oh, you're allowed to normal summon once, right? However, the Floowandereeze Little Birds, and even like the M-Pen Big Bird, right, have effects that allow you to normal summon more than once, but basically only if the first normal summon happens. So basically, you create a chain of normal summons by just utilizing your first normal summon. However, let's say that chain of normal summons gets stopped or negated. What do? Well, if you have Floowandereeze and Magnificent Map, you can basically start a second chain of normal summoning, right? And the cool part about this is you get to banish from your deck to the banish pile any Floowandereeze card. So let's say you have Robina, let's say you have Eglin and this map in your opening hand, right? You can play the map, use the map to reveal your Eglin in hand, and then send Robina to the banish pile. Normal summon Eglin, Chainlink 1, search a Big Bird, Chainlink 2 Robina, return to your hand, right? So then Robina will come back, you'll search your M-Pen, you'll summon Robina will search your barrier statue, and then next you can summon M-Pen, right? So this allows you to create a second normal summon chain, all right? Important to note, and a lot is that if you read the last line, it says you can only use each effect of Floowandereeze Magnificent Map once per turn, right? So that means that if your opponent pops this map, not when you activate the card, but when you activate its effect, let's say they use, I don't know, Ghost Ogre, right, to pop this card, then you cannot immediately play another map and attempt to use the effect again, right? You're done for that turn with this field spell, right? The second effect of this field spell is really powerful because basically, if your opponent normal summons, you get to just start a new chain and just literally summon a bunch of birds on their turn, right? And this is important because let's say you have Bearer Statue of the Stormwinds, right? And they have no wind monsters. Their only option is to normal summon in order to try to out the Bearer Statue. When they normal summon, you can immediately activate the Magnificent Map and just normal summon your birds and then maybe bring out another boss bird, right? So, yeah, this card is really, really good. Oh, and by the way, for those of you trying to figure out how to counter Floowandereeze, so pop this card if you can, only when they activate the effect, not when they play the card. All right. So 3 copies of the map. I have 1 copy of Terraforming because that's just the 4th copy of the map, right? 1 copy of Floowandereeze and the Unexplored Winds. All right. So this card is absolutely bonkers broken. All right. So let's read what this card says. It's a continuous spell that reads: you can conduct tribute summons that require 2 tributes by sending 1 monster you control and 1 card your opponent controls, notice it says card, to the graveyard instead of tributing. It is still treated as a tribute summon. So that means if you're trying to summon a big bird, right, level 7 or higher, any of your big birds, right, instead of tributing 2 of your little birds, if this is on the field, you can literally tribute any one of your birds, and then any card on their freaking field, monster, back row, it doesn't matter. And this is not an activated effect, which means it cannot be negated by Baron de Fleur. It cannot be negated by anything. It's just a continuous effect, right? It's so freaking busted. If you can see this card, you basically win the game. It's really hard to lose a game while you have this card. Like, not gonna lie. All right. Second effect, this card says, during your main phase, you can reveal up to 2 winged beast monsters in your hand and place them on the bottom of your deck in any order, then draw the same number of cards. So the whole idea behind this is like eventually, depending how long the game goes, or not necessarily, maybe you could do this right away. Like, let's say you just have a bunch of little birds clogging up your hand or like that aren't really doing much for you. You can just use this card to shuffle up to 2 of them back in your deck and just draw 2 cards, right? Like, it's essentially a free pot of greed on your turn. It's pretty nuts. And it goes to the bottom of your deck, which means you're not going to draw them. You're going to draw different cards. So, pretty nuts. So this card is a 1-of, even though it's really crazy. It can be searched by M-Pen. It can also be searched if you have, let's say you have Map and Token, right? So you can use Magnificent Map to banish this card from your deck, right? Summon Token. Token activates, targets this card in your banish pile, return it to your hand. So that's another way you can search this card via Map and Token. Yeah, this card is insanely good. If they out this card, you can also recycle it using Shri and Token. So Shri, so this card gets out, it goes to the graveyard. Shri can banish this card, and then Token can grab this card from your banish pile back into your hand. So yeah, this card is so good. It's like when I play Eldlich, normally I say the Eldlich matchup against Floowandereeze is easy, I think. I think it's very easy to beat Floowandereeze as an Eldlich. Unless they have this card. If they have this card, you might be in big trouble. But not necessarily, right? But this card is like the one card that allows Flu to really like actually win the matchup against Eldlich. Alright. Final Floowandereeze card. Floowandereeze and the Dreaming Town. So this card says, during your main phase, immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon a one level 4 lower wing beast monster. So this is one way that you can start a normal summon chain on your opponent's turn. Although you can use it on your turn. It just has to be in the main phase, right? So yeah, so if they're about to end main phase and go to battle phase or run over your Bearer Statue, what you can do is you flip this, do your normal summon chain, and then summon out your Ryza, and then bounce their normal summon monster that's going to run over your Bearer Statue back, and then bring Ryza back to your hand, right? So yeah, Dreaming Town is really good. This has a second effect that says, if you tribute summon a level 7 or higher monster while this card is in your graveyard, you can banish this card, change all monsters your opponent controls to face down defense position. So basically this is like a Book of Moon on all your opponent's special summon monsters. Oh no, all monsters, not special summons, all monsters, right? And so yeah, which means the monsters that are flip face down will not get to use their effects, will not get to link summon, will not get to synchro, will not get to exceed, right? So it's really good. This card is a 1-of, can be searched via M-Pen. And similar, just like I mentioned with Unexplored Winds, this can also be searched using a combination of the Map, Token, and Shri, right? So this is in your graveyard. Shri can banish it, or it can banish itself, right, with its effect. And then Token can bring it back. So theoretically, you can have this card every turn and summon a bunch of birds on your opponent's turn. So really, really good card. Very solid. All right, let's get into some of. All right, so those are all the Floowandereeze cards. Let's get into some of the spicy tech. So for, I guess not so spicy tech is 2 Call by the Grave. You don't want to get hand trapped. It kind of sucks getting hand trapped in this. So you have 2 normal summon lines, right? If yeah, they're able to hand trap you, or droll you, or whatever. Like, it really, really sucks. You kind of want to have a Call by the Grave in your back pocket so that you can stop them from hand trapping you. Here's the thing, though. So you can only Call by the Grave if their hand trap monster actually goes to the graveyard. So what do I mean by that? So remember we have this card called D-Shifter, right? So I see a lot of players, Floowandereeze players especially, just shotgun this card. Just like immediately, just play it, you know, on draw phase, no questions asked. The problem I have with that is that it kind of, I feel like there are smarter ways to play this. So what do I mean? So let's say you start comboing off your combo, right? You have let's say you have Call by the Grave and you have D-Shifter in your hand, and then let's say you have a Robina, right? Let's say you normal Robina, right? You activate Robina to search, right? They ash you. You can chain Call by the, so chain link 1 Robina, chain link 2 Ash, chain link 3 you Call by the Grave, and then chain link 4 you can D-Shifter, right? So if you preemptively D-Shifted before you started your combo, then Call by the Grave will do nothing. It will be a completely useless dead card. You won't be able to stop Ash or whatever hand trap, like Veiler, whatever, right? Or Droll. So you want to use, so if you're going first and you have Shifter, you want to wait to Shifter on the absolute last moment that you can, right? So remember, Shifter requires you to have an empty graveyard. So as soon as you think as soon as a card is about to go to the graveyard, you want to chain Shifter, use Shifter before it goes, that card goes to the graveyard. So yeah, do not shotgun Shifter. Right? Otherwise, you're just going to turn off your Call by the Grave unnecessarily. So yeah, 2 cards, Call by the Grave. Call by the Grave is just a generically good card. You can just stop combos with it, right? Take out Jet Synchron. You can take out Vishuda. You can take out a lot of stuff, right? You can take out DP, right? There's another out to DP. Just banish it with Call by the Grave. All right. So yeah, very important. Also, another thing about D-Shifter. Let's say you're going second, or it's your opponent's turn. Do not shotgun this on your opponent's turn either. If you shotgun this and they don't have Call by the Grave or a way to out it, they're just gonna they might just like set a card or just do nothing and pass their turn, right? What I like to do is I like to activate D-Shifter, and actually, FYI, if they have Psy Frame Lord Gamma, or sorry, Psy Frame Gear Gamma in their hand, and you shotgun Shifter on their draw phase or standby phase, they can get a free Gamma off. Negate Shifter, get 2 bodies on the field, make a Synchro 8, and if they have Omega, they'll rip a card out of your hand. It's not going to be good, right? Play around the fact that they might have Gamma. Try to save this until they have a monster on the field. And make them commit a monster onto the field before you use this, if you can, right? Another reason you might want to use this, or another way to use this is chain it to a card that's going to do something. So for example, let's say they play Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial says, it's going to send a card from their deck to the graveyard. You chain D-Shifter to Foolish Burial, and now whatever card they're going to send is going to go banished, right? And then Foolish Burial is gone, right? If you shotgunned it, they're just going to hold their Foolish Burial until the following turn, right? And they're still going to have it. I like D-Shifter personally better if you chain it to something. The one downside of that is if this happens during their main phase and they have Triple Tactics Talents, they'll be able to play and activate Triple Tactics Talent. However, honestly, I haven't really seen players use Triple Tactics Talents in Master Duel. So, I don't know. Maybe you have a different experience than me, but I haven't really run into Triple Tactics Talents. But yeah, technically, if you use this in main phase, their Triple Tactics will be live. All right. So we talked about that. Talked about Call by. Let's talk about some easy ones. 3 copies of Pod Duality, 3 copies of Pod Prosperity. So the reason you want 3 of each, and so by the way, Duality locks you out of special summoning. You don't special summon this deck, so you don't care, right? And actually, all your little birds basically lock you out of special summoning. So 3 Pod of Duality because it's just a free excavate, right? Look at top 3 cards, add a card to your hand, right? The Floowandereeze currently has a very big problem with consistency. Because basically, without Robina, you can't do much unless you have like 2 cards. So Eaglin plus map, or like street plus map. Like you need multiple. Like it's really hard to get your combo going. And I've seen a lot of Floowandereeze players just straight up brick. Like you need 3 pots of duality and 3 pots of prosperity to make sure you get your cards you need to get going, right? Because there's a huge consistency problem with this deck, right? So yeah, 3 prosperity because you know you can banish a bunch of stuff. Dig 6 cards deep in your deck and find the card you need. Duality lets you dig 3, and duality and prosperity are not mutually exclusive, so you can use both on the same turn. All right. So 6 pots, very not a hot take at all, very cold take. All right. Let's get into some of the hotter takes. So I'm running 1 copy of Elborz, the Sacred Lands of the Simorgh, baby. That's right. For those of you who've never heard of this card, let's read it. All beast monsters on the field gain 300 attack defense. So that's nice. Your M pen becomes 3,000 attack. All of a sudden, you can now You can now battle and out monsters with 6,000 attack, right? Because you can cut their attack in half. All right. And that's it. You can use each of the following effects of Elborz or Sacred Lands of Simorgh once per turn. First effect says you can reveal 1 level 5 or higher wing beast monster in your hand. This turn, you can normal summon wing beast monsters for 1 less tribute, even if this card leaves the field. So this should say 1 fewer tribute. That's an English error. Second effect, if you control a wing beast monster, you can immediately after the effect's result normal summon 1 wing beast monster. Alright, so remember how I said that Floowandereeze has 2 lines of normal summoning, right? You can normal summon via your regular, like Yu-Gi-Oh! Rules normal summon, and then start your chain of normal summons, or you can normal summon using Floowandereeze and a magnificent map. So typically when your opponent's playing against Floowandereeze, they think, alright, they have 2 normal summon trains, I want to stop both, right? However, if you have Elborz, a Sacred Land of the Simorgh, this card gives you a 3rd normal summon train, but it only works if you already control a wind wing beast monster, right? So Eglin, Token, M-Pen, etc., right? So this says immediately after the effect resolves, you can normal summon 1. So yeah, so this gives you a 3rd normal summon chain. So let's say you normal Eglin, and then they negate your Eglin. You can play this card and then get another normal summon, right? Great. And the first effect is also really good. It basically means that all your big birds that require 2 tributes, M-Pen, Apex, Avion, Ryza, now require 1 tribute, yo. Alright, so let's say you happen to open Eglin and like M-Pen or whatever, Robina M-Pen, or Robina Ryza, whatever. Little bird, actually no, you need a little bird that's a wind, right? Let's say M-Pen, M-Pen with Eglin in your hand, right? Normal summon Eglin, activate its effect, they negate your effect, right? You play this field spell, you use this first effect, and then you use your second effect. Normal summon Eglin, or sorry, M-Pen by tributing Eglin. 1 tribute required. And now you can pop off, right? Like, this is a 3rd chain of normal summons. Very, very important. Like, it's just really good. It sucks getting interrupted in this deck, but if you I'm running 1 copy. I mean, honestly, like with terraforming, you technically have 2 of these. So you basically have a total of 5 copies of a field spell that gives you more normal summons, right? So yeah, this card is insanely good. I don't see enough Floowandereeze players on Master Duel playing this, but they absolutely should. And in fact, once the Battle of Chaos cards, a Bird of Perfection comes out, this card is going to be even better, and I'll talk about that once that comes out. So yeah, 1 copy of Elborz. Trust me, you will not regret it. You will thank me later. All right, the final spice. Book of Eclipse. That's right, folks. Book of Eclipse. 3 copies of Book of Eclipse. What the hell is Book of Eclipse, you may ask? Let's read it. This is a quick play spell that says, change all face-up monsters on the field to face-down defense position. During the end phase of this turn, change as many face-down defense position monsters your opponent controls as possible to face-up defense position. Then your opponent draws cards equal to the number of monsters change face-up by that effect. Alright, so I see a lot of Floowandereeze players, they like to play 3 Books of Moon. And that's fine. You're perfectly fine, and I would not be against you playing 3 Book of Moon if you prefer. I tried 3 Book of Moon in playtesting, you know, so why even play Book of Moon or flip cards face down in the first place? All right, so we like Book of Moon because one thing that's kind of hard to deal with is infinite impermanence, right? So it's easy to deal with Ash Blossom if you can chain block, right? Might be easy to deal with Valor, because Valor can only activate if D-Shifter is not active, and Valor can be called by the grave. So there are ways to deal with the grave. But one thing that's kind of annoying is Imperm, right? Or if you're against a Sword Soul, Chi Shao, right? So cards like Imperm, Chi-Shao, whatever, targets, you'll summon a bird, you'll activate its effect, you'll chain either Chi-Shao or chain Imperm, and target your bird to negate its effect. However, if you chain Book of Moon on your own bird and flip it face down, its effect will not be negated, and you'll be able to continue so its effect will resolve, Imperm or Chi-Shao or whatever will fizzle, and then you'll be able to continue to normal summon. And since you're going to be tribute summoning eventually, it doesn't matter that your little bird is face down. So yeah, Book of Moon is what players like to play. The reason, there is a card called Floowandereeze Advent of Adventure, which is currently only available in like the real life card game, right? It's not yet available on Master Duel, but Advent of Adventure basically fills this niche, right? This role of helping your birds dodge like targeting effects, right? So right now most players run Book of Moon. I decided after playtesting I'm gonna run Book of Eclipse. So why is that? So this changes all face-up monsters on the field to face-down defense position. Does not target, right? So I like this card because it's kind of hilarious going second, right? Like, basically, like, this card kind of forces you. So if you play this card, let's say you're going first, right? You summon Robina, you activate how you get Imperm. Just like Book of Moon, you can chain this card, flip your Robina face down, and continue your chain of normal summons, right? So functionally, it's like Book of Moon in that regard. If you're going second, you can just flip this on your opponent's turn and just flip all their monsters face down, like. And if they're in the middle of like summoning stuff, then their face down monsters cannot be used to link, cannot be used to synchro, cannot be used to succeed. They're just done. And if they already established a board, let's say you're going second, right? You play Book of Eclipse, assuming it doesn't get negated. If it goes through, all their monsters will go face down, right? So, and if their monsters are face down, they won't be able to use their effects, folks. Obviously, it doesn't work against link monsters because link monsters can never be in defense positions. But just saying, like, it's kind of funny. And let's say like you're going second, right? And you normal summon Robina, right? They use an effect to try to negate into Robina. You chain Book of Eclipse. So not only are you going to flip Robina face down and make it dodge whatever effect is trying to negate Robina, this will also make all your opponent's monsters flip face down, which means they have to chain another negate, right? So it forces their negates, right? Whereas if you have Book of Moon, maybe they'll let it slide. They're not required to negate your Book of Moon, right? So you summon Robina, they try to negate Robina, you chain Book of Moon. They might hold their negate for Eglin, right? Because okay, I'll let Book of Moon go through. I'll use my next negate on Eglin. However, if you use Book of Eclipse, they have to negate Book of Eclipse. They don't have the option of letting it go through, because if it does go through, then like their negates might be just shut off, right? So I think this card is hilarious. All right, there are two caveats about it, and which are downsides. And honestly, if you don't like these downsides, or honestly if you've been playing with this card and it hasn't worked out for you, feel free to swap these for Book of Moons. So let's read the last part of this. This says, during the end phase of this turn, change as many face-down defense position monsters your opponent controls as possible to face-up defense position. Then your opponent draws cards equal to the number of monsters changed face-up by this effect. So basically, this says whatever monsters you flip face down on the end phase will flip back up, and your opponent draws cards, right? Which, you don't want your opponent to draw cards. But the idea is, if you're going second, right, ideally, you want to clear their board before this effect kicks in, right? So how do you clear your board? Ideally, if you can summon both M-Pen and Ryza, do both. Ryza can clear like at least two of their monsters. M-Pen can attack over, like, you have a way of clearing their entire board before their end phase, and then they'll never get to use this effect to flip cards face up and draw cards, right? So just make sure you're able to clear their board. If you're not, then like they're gonna draw a lot of cards. But then again, like if you're not able to board clear anyway, you kind of just lost the game already. Next caveat, and this is a little sad, but this card includes the effect that allows a player to draw cards, right? Which means it can get Ash Blossomed. So yeah, this card will make my opponent draw cards. They can chain Ash to this card, and Ash can negate this card. So that is another caveat, that they can Ash this card and negate it. So it hasn't happened to me, but just don't be surprised if you do play this deck profile and they chain Ash to this card, and you're like, wait, what the hell? Yes, they can. This card can be Ash and it can be negated. So yeah, it does have that downside, but you know, it is what it is. Technically, the Floowandereeze Advent Adventure card, which has not yet come out, can also be negated by Ash Blossom. So functionally, you know, you just have a quick play spell that can help your birds dodge effects. It can be negated by Ash. You know what I mean? So yeah. So I like Book of Eclipse. I think it's hilarious. And I think try it out. If you don't like it, go to Book of Moon. All right. So that is the main deck. We are done with the main deck. Let us go into the extra deck. So this extra deck is the most flexible part of the deck because, like I said before, if you don't, this extra deck can be whatever you want, right? If you don't run, I'm running Winter Cherries, so this extra deck is just packed full of boss monsters and annoying engine pieces monsters that I don't want to deal with, right? Now, if you don't want to play Winter Cherries, you just want to play like, you know, Droll or some other hand trap, fine. Just replace this extra deck with either whatever you want, or with cards like, you know, Link Karibo, you know, maybe Nightmare Phoenix, maybe, you know, the Zeus package with Assembled Nightingale. The world is your oyster, right? Or, you know, if you do want to run Winter Cherries, but you can't afford all these cards, there are cheaper cards that you can, you know, put in instead. So let's go over. So DPE, the fusion monsters. DPE goes without saying. A lot of decks are on a DPE, and if you don't want to deal with DPE, use Winter Cherry. Like, wait till they summon Anaconda, pay 2,000, chain, you know, send Fusion Destiny, chain Winter Cherries, banish all copies of their DPE, and then they're just stuck like twiddling their thumbs, right? So yeah, DP very straightforward. It's just an annoying card to deal with. Just banish it, right? And if they do have the DP package, you basically just turned that package into bricks in their deck, right? Yeah. Invoked Mechaba. So I don't know if you run into Invoke players. They're a little bit more rare now since the Adventure engine came out. But basically, if you're against Invoked, Invoked is only good. It's only a playable deck because this card exists. Without this card, Invoked is unplayable, right? So if that's the case, why not just banish this card from your opponent's extra deck, right? All copies of this card. So, you know, the normal Alistair, search Invocation, link Alistair, make Almirage, link, make Cyber, secure Garna, activate Invocation, you chain Winter Cherries, you show them your Mechaba, you look through their extra deck, you banish all their Mechaba, and now Invocation has to resolve. So that means they have to basically fuse Alistair with freaking Almirage and make Purg Trio, which is a monster that does absolutely nothing going first. Like, it's hilarious. Trust me. I've done this many times. A lot of Invoke players just scoop at that point. They're like, they're so incredibly fucked. Like, a lot of them will just scoop, right? All right, let's get into the Synchro monsters. Borolo Savage Dragon. Yeah, if they have, if you're against a Dragon Link, or you know they're in a deck that can make a lot of Synchro 8s, like, very easily, and you expect this monster coming out, use Winter Cherries, banish it, right? Sword Soul Grandmaster Chi-Shao. So this is funny because without this card, Sword Soul is kind of stuck twiddling their thumbs. Like, I'm talking about pure Sword Soul, right? They summon Moye. Moye brings out a token. You activate Winter Cherries. You banish all copies of their Chi-Shao. Now what do? Basically, they have to go into Draco Berserker of the Tenyi, or they have to go, which is like a weird freaking card. And in fact, by the way, Draco Berserker Tenyi does absolutely nothing against Floowandereeze, right? Draco Berserker, it banishes a monster. Great, I want to banish them anyway, right? Chi-Shao helps them search Long Ran, which allows them to go in the Bro and the Fleur. If they don't have Chi-Shao, they can't get that search. They have to hard open Long Ran and another worm, right? Lets them search Blackout. Blackout is an annoying card to deal with. They can't search Blackout without Chi-Shao. Like, hitting the Chi-Shao is hilarious, okay? Now, Sword Soul Tenyi is not dead in the water. They can recycle Chi-Shao if they have Ashuna. So, sorry, not Ashuna, Adhara. Adhara is the Tenyi, the Earth Tenyi, that basically says banish it if you have a non-effect monster. Target a worm in your banish pile and return it to the hand, right? So technically, this is a worm. They can use Adhara to recycle this to their extra deck if they have, if they have Adhara, right? So it's not foolproof, but I have played against Sword Soul, like pure Tenyi Sword Soul, where I banished their Chi-Shao and they're like, they just like don't know what to do. I mean, the best synchro they can probably make at that point is like Adamancipator Risen, and even that card is like not that very good because like, you know, you can just attack over it with M-Pen, right? Like it can stop your map, but like it can't do much else. So yeah. Third and final synchro, Baron de Fleur. Pretty much goes without saying. This card's annoying. Everybody hits this card, but every deck replays it. Yeah, when you know they're gonna make a synchro 10, banish Baron, right? You're against a pen deck that's just summoning a bunch of monsters that and they can make a synchro 10. You're against DDD, they can make a synchro 10. You're against Virtual World, they can make a synchro 10. So many decks that make synchro 10s. Like, if you just don't want to deal with Baron, just get rid of it, right? It's that simple. Let's go next. These monsters. So these are spicy. Number F0 Utopic Future. So yeah, this card is the lesser version of the, you know, Utopic Draco Future, right? So Utopic Draco Future is the problematic monster that is annoying to deal with, but the only way they can make Utopic Draco Future is through Utopic Future. So Utopic Draco Future is an ultra rare, this card is a super rare, so I decided, you know what, I'm just going to make a super rare because it's cheaper, right? And I'm going to go ahead and banish this, and so they have two Xyz monsters of the same rank. Take out Utopic Future, they're dead. They're dead in the water, they cannot make Utopic Draco Future, right? Utopic Draco Future is annoying to deal with because it has a monster negate that can take control of your monsters, right? And it cannot be destroyed by battle. It's just annoying to deal with. It's not the most annoying that Floowandereeze can deal with, but it is very annoying. Rongo. Speaking of annoying Xyz monster to deal with, Rongo. You're against a freaking Phantom Knights player or whatever, or any deck that has the ability to make Rongo. Just get rid of this card. Like, it's such cancer. This card should be banned, honestly. Yeah, if they're able to get like 4 or 5, like you can't do anything, right? So you don't want to deal with this card. Just Winter Cherries, get rid of it. Next, the true king of all calamities. This is another card that you just absolutely do not want to deal with, right? Because its effect is a lingering effect, which means even if you book of Eclipse and flip it face down, it doesn't matter. They can activate its effect. It's a quick effect, and then they can just stop you from playing the game, right? So, what you do is if you're against a Virtual World or any deck that has a bunch of level 9s, that includes Earth Machines, by the way. Well, sometimes Earth Machines. Just against Virtual World, 100% get rid of this card. You just don't want to deal with it. This card's stupid. I hate this card. Just get rid of it. What about Crystal Wing? Crystal Wing is way more easier to deal with than this card if you're playing against Virtual World. So don't worry about Crystal Wing. Just get rid of this card. Wait until they make their level 9s first, because they've already committed to the play, and then banish this card. Like, use Winter Cherries, banish this card, and then they're like, all right, what do I do with these level 9s? Nothing. All right, the final Xyz monster is Zeus. Yeah, it's just an annoying board clear. I hate Zeus. It's just way too splashable. If you think they're gonna Zeus you, use Winter Cherries to get rid of it. Let's get into Link monsters. By the way, all these monsters I'm talking about, you can feel free to switch whatever you want. All right, Sky Striker Ace Shizuku. This is funny. So, for those who don't know, Sky Striker Ace Kagari, right, is limited to 1 in Master Duel. So they can only have 1 copy, right? Kagari is the one that recycles spells from the graveyard. Shizuku is the one that searches spells on end phase to their hand, right? Shizuku is at 3 in Master Duel. Yeah, if they summon Ray or whatever, or like, well, so you have to be careful about Ray, right? Because Ray has a quick effect that allows them to chain into Shizuku, but they don't necessarily know that you're going, like, let's say you Winter Cherries and they chain Ray, they don't know that your Winter Cherries is going to banish Shizuku. They might think it's going to banish Kagari. Like, it's unclear to the Sky Striker player what you're going to banish off of Winter Cherries, because Winter Cherries discards her cost. It does not like show the monster cost. So, but whatever. They have Rose. Whatever. They have some way to get to Shizuku. Send Winter Cherries, show Shizuku, banish all 3 copies of their Shizuku, and now what do they have left in their extra deck? 1 Kagari, 2 or 3 Hayate, and maybe 1 Kaina. That's it. That's their entire, like, Sky Striker engine, right? It's just dead in the water. Like, to be fair, I don't see Sky Striker that often, but it's funny. Just get rid of Shizuku, and like they just lose so much steam, right? Prank Kids Meow Meow Moo. So this card is the main way that Prank Kids starts any of their combos. Now, maybe you want to say, oh, what about the Battle Butler? Isn't Battle Butler a more annoying card to deal with? So technically, yeah, Battle Butler, if you have Winter Cherries and on their Battle Butler, it's like, what the hell do they use their prank kids? What do they go into with their prank kids monsters, right? Battle Butler is an ultra rare, so I got Meowmoo because it's a super rare, and also if they don't have access to Meowmoos, they're kind of dead. The only way they can make any, like, let's say you banish all their Meowmoos, right? They normal summon a prank name. On summon, you send Winter Cherries, discard Winter Cherries, show this. They banish all copies of their Meowmoo, right? And then what do? Right? The only way they can combo off at this point is if they already have pranks in their hand, are able to play it and then discard a prank monster, a prank card to make a token, and then the token and the prank name can go into the link too. So technically they can do that, but again, they have to hard open prank kids pranks, right? Which they usually just run one copy. How else can they do it? Or they have to have Pandemonium already in their hand, and they have to have a second prank name, right? So yeah, if they have Pandemonium already in their hand and 2 prank names, they can still combo off. However, Pandemonium I think is like 1 of or 2 of at the most in prank decks. So trust me, you hit the Meowmoo, they're done, right? And in fact, you're against Adamancipator. Sometimes Adamancipators like to run a small prank kids engine. You can hit the Meowmoo if you'd like, right? Dark Infant Adagnister. So this card sucks, or like I hate this card because I mean, feel free to, you know, if you don't see that many Adagnister players, you can feel free to cut this card. But basically, you're going second against Adagnister, and you know you don't have Maxi or you don't have Deep Shifter. Sometimes you don't want them to get to their Link 6, right? Because sometimes if they summon their Link 6 with 4,000 attack or more, none of your birds will be able to out it. Like literally, it's impossible to out if they have the rival Cyberse Adagnister at 4,000 attack or more. It's literally impossible, right? So to even prevent them from getting there, just hit this with Winter Cherries. Now you could say, oh, why don't we just hit the Link 6, right? So you can. The Link 6 is a UR card. This is an SR. But I've talked to some of my what is it? I have friends who play Adagnister, and they'll tell me like if they did not have access to this card, they're kind of dead in the water, right? It's really hard to combo off as Adagnister without this card. So yeah, this card searches their field spell, right? This card like allows them to just against Adagnister, get rid of this card, banish it, all copies, and they will not. I'll be very surprised if they're still able to summon their Link 6 at that point. I think they'll just scoop. Next, Crystron Halqifibrax. Goes without saying, this card is busted. Some of the best decks in the format are abusing the hell out of this card. As soon as you see your opponent summon a monster with a tuner, just shotgun Winter Cherries, call Hulk. Just get rid of Hulk. They can't go into Hulk. They can't go into Rorodon. They can't go into Rorodon. They can't do all those synchro summons. They can't get Dinglong. They can't get 9 Pillars of the Yang Zing. They're dead. Their turn is over, right? Get rid of this card. Imagine Winter Cherries. Imagine a world in which Crystron Halqifibrax is banned. Winter Cherries will do that for you. That's why you want to run Winter Cherries and with a Hulk, right? DDD Abyss King Gilgamesh. So recently we had a new set which released a bunch of DDD support. All of a sudden the DDD deck is playable, and you might have been seeing this in Master Duel. It's very popular now. There's a lot of extra deck monsters in the DDD deck, right? In my opinion, the best choke point or the best thing to hit with Winter Cherries is this card right here. This is like a massive extender, right? It allows them to send monsters on their field to the graveyard so they can use their graveyard effects. It allows them to search 2 pendulum scales so they can pendulum summon. This is just an amazing card for DDD. Like, use Winter Cherries, banish this card. DDD player will be significantly weakened without access to this card. Trust me. And it's a super rare, so very cheap. And then the final Winter Cherries target I'm running is Evil Twin Lilla. Yeah, Evil Twins are a very popular deck as well. Lilla is the blue one that pops cards on the field. Banish it. Use Winter Cherries to banish this card. Like, imagine playing an Evil Twin deck where you literally just kill half of, like, literally one of the twins, right? The whole point of the twins is you want both of them. You want Lilla and you want Kiss-a-Kill. Without both, they can't do jack shit. It, like, literally can't do anything. Like, their only win condition is like an access code play or like a Zeus play. But if they're going first, it's not like they can't really do that, right? Literally take this card out and they will be dead in the water. Like there's nothing they'll be able to do anymore. Trust me. Like this is, yeah, it's hilarious playing Winter Cherries against the Evil Twin player, banishing their Lila, and then they're like, oh fuck, what do I do now? Exactly. There's nothing they can do. So trust me, this is your Winter Cherries card. All right. So that is the final card of my extra deck for Winter Cherries. Sometimes, if you're going first, you don't really know what deck they're playing, right? And let's say you play Pot of Prosperity. You're like, all right, I gotta banish 6 cards. What cards do I banish, right? If you don't know what your opponent is going, right? What your opponent is playing. Well, one thing I'll say is, if you're playing against Agnister or Prank Kids and you're going first, so by the way, guys, M-Pen is a card that shuts down Link monsters, right? Link monsters literally cannot use their effects, which means if you're against a Link deck like Sky Striker, Agnister, whatever, right? Even Evil Twins, right? You can safely banish all those Link monsters from using Pot of Prosperity because you know they won't be able to go into it. I would keep Hulk around because just in case they have an Imperm or they have a way to stop your M-Pen, you still want to be able to take out their Hulk, right? If needed. So yeah, Link monsters are usually the first to go. You can also take out Utopic Future. This is probably the weakest of the Xyz monsters. Zeus, I would keep Zeus because if you're going first, they'll probably gonna try to Zeus you if possible, right? Yeah. So I'm just giving you priority targets for if you're blind, you don't know who you're playing against, and you have to banish some cards off Prosperity. I'm giving you some options, right? It's like, yeah, Shizuku, whatever. Get rid of Shizuku, yeah, whatever. So, alright. So that's my Floowandereeze deck profile. I'm going to show you some combos at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, even though, yeah, this is a degenerate deck, it's a meta deck, I still enjoy it. I think it's hilarious, because it's also kind of anti-meta. What do I mean by anti-meta? Well, they have Max C against you. Doesn't matter. All your summons are normal summons. Max C does nothing. They have Scythe Lock, right? They summon Artifact Scythe. Lock you out of the extra deck. Doesn't matter. You're not summoning from the extra deck, right? It just laughs in the face of a lot of meta stuff. So, yeah, that's another reason I like it. Anything that's even like remotely anti-meta, or like a little bit anti-meta, like definitely tickles a bone for me. So, all right, so stay tuned for the combos. Here we go. The first combo I'm going to show you for Floowandereeze. I'm not going to show you that many combos for Floowandereeze because honestly, like, Floowandereeze is a very simple deck. Like, it doesn't take, there aren't that many complicated combos, right? So first combo I'm showing you is the 1-card combo featuring Floowandereeze Robina, right? So you normal summon Robina, activate Robina, search Eglin, normal summon Eglin, use Eglin to search M-Pen. So very important thing I just did, okay? So I tribute summoned M-Pen using Robina and Eglin, right? Chainlink 1 M-Pen to search a spell trap, Chainlink 2 Eglin, right? So it's very important that you use Eglin to chain block M-Pen, right? Because you want M-Pen's effect to go through so you get your Dreaming Town. And the reason you want to leave Robina in the banish pile is because on your opponent's turn, you're going to start summoning monsters using your using Dreaming Town, right? When you summon Eglin, you want the search to go through, right? So that you can get Big Bird. So you want to use Eglin. You want to use Robina that's in the banish pile to chain block your Eglin, right? So leave Robina in the banish pile and bring back your Eglin, right? M-Pen's going to search Dreaming Town. You're going to set Dreaming Town, and then on your opponent's turn, whenever you feel like they have a way to threaten your board, you can flip, of course, in the main phase, Dreaming Town, normal Eglin, Eglin 1, Robina 2, normal Robina, and then just continue from there. You know, Eglin will at least get you your another Big Bird. Ideally Ryza, but sometimes Apex Avion. Combo number 2. So this is a one of the stronger combos. It's your map, so your field spell, Floowandereeze is a magnificent map, plus any little bird. Honestly, I prefer to have Eglin. Eglin is the best little bird to open map with, and you'll see why in a second. So you want to play your map, activate its effect. You'll reveal Eglin, send Robina, right? Normal Eglin Chainlink 1, Robina Chainlink 2. Recall that Eglin is the most important little bird for you to protect because it gets you access to your big birds, right? So ideally you want Eglin's effect to go through. Return Robina, search M-Pen. Now you're going to summon Robina. Robina's going to search your barrier statue of the Stormwinds. And you're going to tribute summon. So just like in the previous combo, M-Pen 1, Eglin 2, right? So return Eglin, grab Dreaming Town, and then you have one more normal summon. You summon barrier statue of the Stormwinds, and then you set Dreaming Town. And then same deal. On your opponent's turn, they're going to summon or do some stuff. At some point, you're either going to activate your map if they normal summon, or activate Dreaming Town to basically start normal summoning again. You're going to summon Eglin 1, Robina 2. Robina returns, Eglin will search Ryza, or maybe you'll search, well, it depends. It depends on what they do. Like, most of the time you'll be searching Ryza, right? But sometimes you want to search either Apex Avian or your second M-Pen. Combo number 3. So this combo is a 3-card combo. It's your map, either M-Pen or Eglin, so either M-Pen or a bird that can get you M-Pen, right? And one other little bird. I'm just going to go with Robina this time, right? So let's say you have Robina, M-Pen, and map, right? But you can switch these up. So what you do is you activate map. You're going to send, using map, reveal Robina, send Floowandereeze and Unexplored Winds, right? Robina is going to search Tokan. Tokan is going to bring back Unexplored Winds to your hand. M-Pen is going to summon. And this time you're going to chain block with Robina. And M-Pen's going to grab Dreaming Town. So now you activate your Unexplored Winds. And you activate Robina. So now, on your opponent's turn, at some point you'll either use map or Dreaming Town. Normal Robina, Robina 1, Tokan 2. Robina will grab Eglin. Summon Eglin. Eglin will grab Ryza or Apex Avian or whatever. And then you're going to tribute summon using Unexplored Winds. You're going to tribute one of your little birds, ideally the Eglin, and one card on their field, right? So if you have Ryza, you can basically clear 3 cards, or 4, right, from the graveyard. So this is just an example, right? Showcasing how Tokan and map can get you access to Unexplored Winds. If you're already using your M-Pen to grab like Dreaming Town, like you know, sometimes you also want access to the other one. So just an example, right? It's not the only way to do this combos. These are not the only combos I'm showing, but these are good combos that you should be aware of. All right, that's all for the combos. I hope you enjoyed the deck profile. I hope you enjoyed the combos. I hope you all learned something. Yeah, stay tuned for my next video. See you on the next one. Peace.